Good morning and welcome back to Black Bear Forge and the Hook of the Week. This week I thought we would go ahead and use this piece of angle iron. And this is a piece of 1/4 by 3 by 2 angle iron. And I have cut this piece of angle iron into 8 fairly random slices. Didn't worry about them being too straight or anything else. And we're just going to see what we can do with all of these oddball bits of angle iron. So hopefully we get 8 different hooks out of this today, and hopefully some of them are nice. But before we do that, we've got some mail to open. Yeah, I already opened these and took a quick look at them before I did this on camera, mostly because this one on top said perishable and I wanted to get it in the fridge, and that was better done outside the packing box. This box comes from Shauna Bergman at the Maple Leaf Cheese Store. And wouldn't you know it, it's got cheese in it. So there's some interesting things in this box. Not only is there cheese, there's some little mini cow pies. That should be good. But also, and this is really cool, she made a t-shirt, long sleeve t-shirt specific for Black Bear Forge. And this other box comes from Jake Radcliffe. You remember Jake from Black Sands Forge. We did the smelt out here. He's the traveling smelter, but he also does a little bit of woodworking. And he sent something we can use to decorate the shop here. I think I can find room for it anyways, if I can get it out of the package. And he makes these neat little flags for all 50 states as far as I can tell. I hope that beginning part of the video came out okay. Unfortunately, I thought I was working with 2 cameras and one of them seems to have just given up completely. I have no idea what's up with it. So if some things were a little odd, that's the reason. Today we're just going to use the one camera, so this will be a little bit simpler edit and simpler production value, but we should still get some good hooks out of it. Let's start with a simple drive hook. Drive hook just starts with a nice spike. We've seen this a million times. Unfortunately, just one more camera issue means that we didn't see that entire process. It's going to be one of those days. If today wasn't Saturday and I didn't have to have a Sunday hook of the week, I think I would just call it a day in the shop and go for a hike. But since this is going to look about the same on both sides, we can draw this out. I didn't file or grind any of the saw marks off, so I need to make sure I forge all of the surfaces so that we don't have bandsaw marks left in these. Draw that out to a very nice slender point. Just knock the edges off. There's still enough heat to do a little curl there. And cooling the little curl off just a little bit. We can then bend this in this simple fabricated hook jig. And there's our first hook out of a piece of angle iron. Now let's start this one by flaring out the end here. I'm just going to taper it in one direction, let it flare in the other direction. It looks pretty good. Wouldn't mind these corners being a little bit rounder. Try and even up the taper going this direction. That looks pretty good. Let's punch a couple of holes in there. I'm using a very small punch for this today so that we can not have to use great big screws or bolts to mount this hook. The only problem with using the angle iron like this is it's a little fiddly to hold on to, but it does work. This does end up pushing a little bit of a burr out the back side, so we'll need to run a drill bit through here to clean it up. Let's go ahead and do the same sort of thing on the end here. Again, make sure we camouflage the saw marks here so it doesn't have bandsaw marks. Again, that tapers in one direction and flares in the other. I'm just going to lightly bevel this, take the sharp edges off. I'll just start to roll the end over here. Something just like that, I think. And using just a regular bending fork, I'm going to bend this up. I'm not sure what you would do with this hook. But generally, it'll stand upright like that. Might be good for curtain rod or something. Just trying out ideas. Camouflaging the saw marks again. This one I'm going to leave fairly angular and not taper it. Then I think this leg I'm going to reduce to a round bar. You just forge it out square and then octagon, and then we'll round it up. This one's going to be pretty odd. I'm going to roll it all backwards. I'll just get in there with a pair of scroll tongs and tighten that up a little bit. So something like that. That could hang from the ceiling to hang a house plant from. It could hang on the wall this way to use as a hook like this. It could hang on the wall this way as a place to stick a carabiner with your key ring on it or something. Not sure what we'll do with it. It will be a little hard to get to a screw hole up in here, but it can be done with an offset screwdriver. This one I went ahead and split that with the bandsaw. We can open that up like that. I'll draw these out. I just want to draw both of these legs out evenly. I want a gentle taper in them, a little thinner at the far end. No real forging at a low heat like this, just a little bit of straightening. And I can lightly bevel the edges so there's nothing sharp there. Of course, you can roll this up into any sorts of shapes you want at this point. We've already made a heart hook recently, so I'm not going to roll them up into a heart shape. I think what I'm going to do is both sides a little different, a little asymmetrical, just for the fun of it. Something kind of like that. I think I'm going to bend this one back up a little bit. That leans over a little too far. Use these round nose pliers that almost fit. Kind of fiddle with it till you like it. I think this one I'm going to draw out into a parallel taper instead of letting it spread like I have been. Go ahead and put a little curl in there. I'll go to the bending fork again to turn that into a little bit of a hook. These are all just very different, but they're all going to have that little bit of a square corner in there because of the angle iron. Or this bit of angle iron has this nice flare at the end, much bigger there, relatively parallel here. So I think we'll accentuate that extra wide spot there and make a wider finial out of it. I'm going to start just by creating a shoulder here. And thin this section out some. or make it narrower. I'm not going to thin it in the other direction, although I may take it back down to the original thickness. Hope that makes sense. That isolates a little mass there where it was the widest. And if your hardy hole's close enough to the edge of the anvil, you can do the same thing right here and use this as your far edge and round that up. I'm going to do half face blows, the cross peen, so I can spread this. This may need a little bit of filing or grinding. I'm kind of going for a round finial on here. Something about like that. I think we'll taper this one kind of two ways here. Just making this up as we go. I have no real plans, so. I think this is another one I'm just going to curl away from me here. This is another one I think I'm just going to use the scrolling tongs on here, or scrolling pliers, or round nose pliers, whatever you want to call them. And just try to get something I kind of like. I say this is not what I saw in my head when I started. When you do stuff like this without a plan, sometimes you end up with shapes you never envisioned. It's just a matter of fiddling till you get tired of fiddling or till you get exactly what you think you want. That's the beauty of this, though, is you just get to fiddle. I think this one I'm going to draw both ends out and let them spread enough to have a place for a screw hole. Something like that. We'll do the same thing to the long end. I'm going to lightly bevel what has been the back side of all the other hooks. I'm going to start this by bending that back. I hope what I see in my brain really works. Something like that. That's what I'm going for at this point. And I want that to actually sit flat on the anvil, although it's not going to quite yet. But you kind of get the idea what I'm going for here, I think. I think that first bend is in my way, so I'm going to straighten it back out. I'm going to straighten the whole thing back out. And then we'll create this sharper bend here. Let's see if bending it this way results in better success. Could be some sort of a figurehead starting there. It looks like a ram's head or a gazelle or something. It's going to take a little bit of straightening out. It's pretty crooked. But I think you kind of get the idea. And that's a good place to make use of the vise, so it holds it nicely and you can tweak and adjust. I've got a similar idea in mind for this one. And I've cut both legs off the same, and now I'm going to draw them out the same, or as even as I can get them anyways. I think it's okay if they flare out a little bit. Pretty much it's the two-sided taper or a four-sided taper or something like that. There's not a lot you can do to these ends. But try to use your imagination anyways. If you think of something better to do with these, go ahead and do it and post it on the Facebook group. I'm just using the peen of a hammer to draw this out a little bit more efficiently here. For what I have in mind for this hook, I think it's worth measuring to see if it's the same. This could be about an 1/8 inch longer on that leg. It'd be worth letting that cool and then double checking the measurements and filing the ends or whatever you need to do to get them exact. I think this one will look best symmetrical. Now I'm going to put this up in the vise and grab just a little bit of that end and give each of these arms a twist and twist them opposite so that they lay the same. And that's the part that'll go up against the wall. I want those to lay flat to one side. And put those little wings in the vise. We'll go ahead and draw this out just a little bit. Using the vise as my bending jig and my form there, and that results in a hook. Looks like that. Now that's just a look at exploring a concept. What does it look like to make hooks out of angle iron? I don't know if any of these are exactly the way I would make them if I started them again, although some of them may be. It just gives an opportunity to explore different ideas, different concepts. Once you make one, you look at it and you say, oh, if I did this a little different or that a little different, you might come up with a different hook. Now, I don't know if all 8 of these that I did actually made it into the video by the time I'm done editing. Like I say, I was having a bad camera day, and I still had other issues once I started with the video. So if not all of them made it, I apologize. I'm going to go through each hook here and show you a close-up of each one, talk about it just a little bit so you know what my thoughts on that hook are, and then use your own imagination and make your own hooks out of angle iron. So here is the first hook we did. It was the drive hook, and it's got this nice square corner on there. This one, I really do like the way it looked, and I think I might actually make more drive hooks like this. Takes a little bit of time cutting that out, but you do end up with such a nice, perfect corner here, and that's sort of worthwhile, I think. And of course, that corner is the common denominator for all of these hooks because they're all going to have some remnant of that corner unless you forge it out into flat stock, and then what's the point? This one I kind of like. I like the flat section here. It would be good for hanging a row of something or little mini shelf bracket, or upscale this to really big angle iron and do this, and you could end up with some very nice little shelf brackets. Just a take on the classic J hook, a little bit different. I don't know that I like the way this came out so well, but something unique, something different. Now this one, I kind of like the way it came out. I think I would look at this again and do something similar. It's going to be really hard to get a screw in here, but if you fish the screw in and use an offset screwdriver and maybe hold it in place and spin the hook, I'm not sure how you would do that. You can get that in. I've done things like that before. But I'm thinking that I might actually want to straighten this or put it more of an S-bend so that this is down here away from the wall and this part still screws to the wall. You can get the screws in there. And I think that might be a real interesting interpretation in a similar kind of hook. Just a little split top hook. Lots of different things you can do with a split top. We've looked at a lot of those in the past. This is just another version of it. Again, you got the square corner there and kind of a nice little hook. I think that one's very usable. And I kind of like this one. I just like the shape of it. It's not necessarily anything particularly special, but I think it would be useful. And again, that square corner just really defines that kind of a hook. Now this one, I like it. I think it's got some practicality to it, but I don't think there's any reason to make it out of angle iron. If you folded over a piece of flat bar and forge welded that little bit, you'd get the exact same effect. But in any case, we did do this out of angle iron. It did meet my challenge for the day. And then the most unique one, at least in my eyes, the most unique of the bunch, is this one. And I really like it, and I think making it with some bigger angle iron, so you had 3-inch legs on each side, might really look interesting. I'm glad I went ahead and drew this out. That adds a lot of character to that hook. Just really something unique and something different in my eyes. But like I say, that is just my interpretation of making some hooks out of angle iron. I'll bet you can come up with lots of different variations. I kind of get tunnel vision into you spread this out this way and that's the way this is supposed to look. But maybe you have something different that you see in your mind. Give this a try. It's really not all that difficult. The hardest part is cutting the angle iron. If you don't have a bandsaw, that makes it a little bit tougher, but you can do it with an angle grinder, you can do it with a chop saw, lots of different ways you can cut the angle iron off into little slices. Most of these were 3/8 to 1/2 inch wide, and they were a little bit random just so I had different things to work with. But if you make some of these, make sure you go over to the Facebook group and share them on the Facebook group, or if you do Instagram, share them on Instagram with hashtag Hook of the Week, and that way anybody looking for Hook of the Week ideas can see what you came up with. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. If you haven't done so already, I'd love it if you hit that subscribe button. Feel free to stick around, watch a few of the other videos, share the videos with your friends. If you'd like to support the channel financially, there are links in the video description for both PayPal and Patreon. Those are merely donations. The content is free and will remain free. In the meantime, I hope you can get out to your shop, make something, but stay safe, wear your safety glasses, and we'll see you for the next one. Broke my punch. This could be about an 1/8 inch longer on that leg.